So, how are we doing on all those fronts? Let's ask our next guest to weigh in. I have a feeling he has a very strong opinion. Retired Army Colonel, former advisor to the SecDef, as well as the CEO of Our Country, Our Choice, our good pal, Colonel Doug Macgregor, back on the program. Colonel, it's been too long. Should we start in Asia or start in Eastern Europe? Where would you like to go? Since they're talking peace in Saudi about the Ukraine war, let's start there if you don't mind.
No, I think that's a good idea. I think President Trump has really had his hands full with the Ukrainians. You'll recall that horrible demonstration in the Oval Office.
Oh, yes.
Which should never have happened, with this little man who comes in costume and then tries to upstage the president. Then the president restored aid to Ukraine, which I don't think was a good idea, but he did it. And then subsequently, he talked personally to President Putin, despite that aid, and said that he would like a ceasefire. And the two of them came to agreement on a ceasefire that would spare energy infrastructure, which is very important for the Ukrainians at this stage. And the Russians instantaneously halted all attacks on energy infrastructure. It was very clear, very obvious to everyone. And within hours, the Ukrainians breached that ceasefire and attacked Russian targets once again, including fuel depots and storage points. And so I think the problem right now is not Russia. The Russians have a highly disciplined military establishment. The Russians will respond, but there's no reason for them to have any confidence in the Ukrainians. And quite frankly, I don't think there's any reason for the president to have any confidence in Zelenskyy either. I think he should cut his losses and get out, because that's the quickest way to end this thing. Stop the aid and just pull us out. I don't think the Ukrainian government that's there now deserves our support. But I know that's not the majority opinion in D.C., but that's mine.
Oh, that's okay. We appreciate your opinion, Colonel. That's why it's an Opinionated Talk Show. Do you feel like, because I feel like the short man, after he got scolded by, Trump in the White House, I feel like he wanted to almost thumb his nose at it too, because the peace deal was negotiated within days after that horrific meeting. And like you said, Russia paused fighting, but then they launched some drone attacks, Ukraine, over into Russia, as you just mentioned. Do you think that was him almost saying, yeah, okay, you pulled the aid, you pulled this, then you gave it back only at the last second. I'm going to show you I don't have to obey you, and I had our troops, or are their troops just that wild and they don't pay attention and listen to orders like the United States military does?
No, I think that's a reasonable explanation. And keep in mind that he turned instantly to the British and the French.
Right.
And extracted promises from them that they would come and support him in Western Ukraine. Well, that's outrageous nonsense. And that's the exact opposite of what President Trump is trying to achieve. He's trying to achieve a peaceful settlement. And he's not getting anywhere, largely because of this Ukrainian government, and also because the British and the French have undermined him. That's why I think it's time for us to say, fine, cut the losses, let's pull out and see how they like it. Because quite frankly, the Russians are positioned right now, if they want to do it, to launch major offensives in the north and the south of Ukraine. They could take Odessa and Kiev in short order. And I think the president said that. He knows the Ukrainians have lost this war.
Yeah.
This is not the time to play. This is the time to come to terms with reality. And the longer they wait, the more territory the Russians will take. And he said that.
Yeah. Well, he's got him at the table. Ukraine's got to give a little and get this thing done, or there's going to be more bloodshed. About a minute or so left, Colonel. I got to just hit Asia real fast, because I've always said, and I think you too, China's the real threat. Let's stop worrying about Russia. That's what the left and the media has told us is the big threat. No, it's not. It's China. So this better partnership with Japan, and Japan bolstering their military and saying that they will work with us and Taiwan to try and keep Taiwan safe from China. This has got to be a good thing. Your assessment?
Well, I think we need to be careful of the Japanese, because right now, Japan, South Korea, and China are economically very closely integrated.
Okay.
They're doing a land office business with each other. If anyone thinks that the Japanese will put their trade with China at risk because we want them to, they're very much mistaken. The Japanese have had a free ride for 70 plus years in terms of defense. It's time for them to defend themselves, because they're talking out of both sides of their mouths. So I wouldn't put much store in that idea. The other thing is, if you put it in Japan, the Japanese are not going to put up with us if we decide that we want to do something in an area of importance to them. They'll intervene and say, well, we didn't sign up for that. We can't allow you to operate from Japan against anybody in that area. I think those days are over. I think we need to be realistic. And remember, when President Trump was in his first term, he visited Japan and he came to the mic after he'd been there and he said, I'm not sure why we're here. The Japanese are a very wealthy, successful country.
Right.
Why are we spending so much to defend them? I think Trump was right then, and I think he's right now. So I'm very skeptical of these promises. You've got to look at the money. Where is the money going?
Great point. That's why I always like your input. Only like 10 seconds left, but I got to throw this out there because I love the look of it. What do you make that President Trump and our SecDef Pete Hegseth is now going to deliver a badass new fighter jet called the F-47, named after our 47th president? This will be a 6th generation fighter jet. Couple seconds. Your thoughts on that, Doug?
F-35 has practically bankrupted us. The F-35 has never performed to expectation. I think this is a mistake. I wouldn't announce anything. Let somebody build something first, then we'll evaluate it. And we don't know where we're going to be financially in 6 months. We may not be able to afford any of this.
So put it on the private sector. Let Boeing, Lockheed, one of those guys say, here, serve it up on a platter. We've got a good price and a great jet, and it actually works. And then go from there.
Yes.
Yeah. You need to be back there advising the new SecDef, Colonel. As always, we appreciate your input.
Okay. Thanks, Dan. Good to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you. Take care, Doug.